Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network.
It hasn't changed in millions of years. But here we have a clue to an answer.
Hello, this is Michael Feely, and you're listening to the Paranormal UK Radio Network, the UK's biggest paranormal network, and this is Paranormal Dimensions with David Young.
Hello, welcome to the show. We've got an interesting show tonight. We've got Frank Willis is making his third visit to the show, and it's going to be about ley lines, apparently, this show. And also helping me today is going to be the lovely Sasha Christie, who's making another return visit. And we had a bit of fun the last time, didn't we, Sasha? Sasha's always welcome. She's a good friend of everybody, and you know, we always have a bit of a laugh. Is not even amongst all the nasty stuff that's going on at the moment, we try to keep a bit positive, don't we? But how's things been with you, Sasha?
All right, bit weird, obviously, a bit weird for everybody.
Yeah.
Kids are off school because of, cases in school. So it's just us in a little bubble, as usual.
I know.
It's like before anyway. I don't really have much of an outdoorsy life.
No, I know. And you've had some medical problems as well with your shoulder and everything as well, have you?
Yeah, there's always something falling off.
Yeah, well, let's hope they fix you up at some point anyway.
Yeah.
I did mean to say thank you to Michael Feely for the intro. I forgot to say that at the beginning. But anyway, I guess we better bring Frank on before he disappears. We're going to incorporate your story into this as well, Sasha, because I think you've got your story. Was it yours connected to ley lines as well?
Yeah, very close, very, very close.
Yeah, I think that's why Frank suggested you come on the show, and it's always a good idea for me anyway to get you on. So anyway, let's get Frank on. Hello, Frank. Welcome to the show.
Hiya.
Hi, mate. Yeah, how you doing?
Okay. I'm fine, thanks.
Good.
Yeah.
Welcome back. You were there a few months ago on the show. It was, I think it was quite well received, as always are.
Oh, great. I never had any feedback at all off that show, but then again, I never looked.
Well, to be honest, I don't get a lot of, it all sort of goes back, all I get is a bit of feedback off the network saying, oh, that show went down alright, but you don't really get too much feedback, things like that really. I don't even see the figures and things really, but we do get a good audience across the world, so that's good enough for me. I mean, I don't know, I think the network gets around about 30,000. I think that's going up now because we're on several different platforms as well now, on Spreaker and I think, is it Google Podcasts and things like that? I think it's on iHeart as well now. So.
I don't know how I didn't know about Google Podcasts. I'll have to look at that. Yeah,
no, I think it's on there as well, so I was told. So it is spreading out more. We're not doing actual Podbean anymore. We're off of Podbean. In case anyone's looking for shows on Podbean, we're not on there anymore. I think you can find all the older shows on Spreaker now, if you want to go looking for them. I think they've put everything on Spreaker now, so, yeah. Anyway, Frank, it's your show. It's going to be mostly about ley lines, this one.
Yeah, so a ley line I've recently discovered in North Wales. For people who don't know what a ley line is, it's basically a line of energy scientists can't really fathom it, but for somebody like me, I know it exists. The background I've got is in martial arts, and I became aware of the energy called Chi. And as a lot of people know, I do practice Tai Chi. Now, once you feel the energy or discover it, you know, there's no going back. You can't explain it to anybody, but you either know it or you don't know it. Excuse me. So, you know, most people, the days I come across, I'll either be teaching them Tai Chi or I'll be doing spiritual healing on them, which again is utilising this energy called Chi. Now, a lot of people go, no, you can't do it doesn't exist, but it's something what's been around for thousands of years, and certainly the Chinese have used it. But in the West, this is the big, what I find funny. The symbol of the medical profession is the caduceus, and it's the two serpents twining up to the Godhead, which is the wings. Like, there's 7 areas where it entwines around. They are the chakras in the body, the main center, pressure points, whatever you want to call them, but main energy centers in the body. The top of the head, the forehead, the throat, the heart, the chest, the sternum, your sacral chakra or dantian chakra, and your base chakra. They're all there. It's what I use in martial arts. It's also what I use in healing. You know, you divide the energy up into the yin and yang, hence the 2 serpents. Now, that symbol is, like I say, it's a symbol in the medical profession, but it goes back to Hippocrates, and he had a very, very similar symbol. Now, he called Chi pneuma, so if your aura or your Chi became imbalanced, you had pneumonia, and that's where the word comes from. Now, doctors signed a Hippocratic oath, of which Hippocrates, he was the forefather of medicine, and they're unaware of what that symbol actually means. Now, for me practicing Tai Chi, I've become aware of these energies around me, and for a simple practical thing, most people experience it by, if they're sat in a pub or sat in a restaurant or a public place, and they feel that somebody's staring at them, they turn around and yes, somebody is staring. Now, that was another thing I learned in the army. You don't stare at your enemy if you're ambushing them, because the senses of that hind, they will sense that you are looking at them, so they will know you're there. So it's a very real thing, but for science to ignore it, it depresses me to an extent where it's a program put out to suppress it. The church certainly had a good go of trying to suppress it, where they split up Hippocrates' theory that to heal the body, you've got to heal the mind and spirit. Spirit meaning the pneuma or the Chi. So, with that, people are interacting with each other, and hence they're picking each other's vibes or energies up. They're in a Chi field. So some clairvoyants claim they can read people, but actually they're just inside that Chi field and they're picking up, like an empath picks up energy.
Yeah, your skin tells you everything you need to know about your environment, and then your brain is meant to process that information. But as you've just said, we're disconnected from that. We're told, that our brains are separate kind of thing, and, we have imbalances in chemistry, and it's not at all. It's all about energy.
Yeah.
And your skin tells you everything.
Like Hippocrates, he said mind, body and spirit, you cure the whole. but it split up. The church took over the spirit side of it.
Yeah.
Medicine took over the body side of it, and then the mind's separated into psychology and psychiatry.
Yeah.
That is the infancy of medicine. You know, every year I read stuff and it contradicts the previous year. You know, when I was a social worker, it was a nightmare. It was a minefield. You know, you were constantly reading stuff and the latest updates and what was really going on with the mind and the body. You know, because I was working with adults with learning disabilities. But I got out of it because it worked for me.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to become more spiritual and lead that life, because with the chi, when you become aware of it, you start to sit in certain places in your room, and you start to think, oh well, that don't feel right. You know, you start to become a bit more intuitive. You start listening to your gut feeling, and then you start seeing things differently. You know, like a very good example, I say to people, by the definition of opposites, what's the opposite of left? And everybody goes, right. I say, why is that? And they say, well, there's a fulcrum point in the middle. You know, that's the opposite. So you go, right. So what's the opposite of a tall tree? And they go, a short tree. It can't be. It has to be a deep tree. It has to go under the ground. Yeah. You know, and that's the way we're educated, the way we've been like programmed rather than educated. So, you know, I start seeing things like that, and then I start taking the mickey sometimes. You know, I'll hold up a piece of paper and say, what's that? Oh, well, that's a piece of paper. Then, no, it's not, it's a dead tree. And it's paper pulp. But anyway, with that, you know, as Sasha said it before, you become more aware of your environment. And the Chinese brought that to a fine point with Feng Shui. You know, they'll build houses in a certain configuration, in a certain direction. They'll even bury bodies in a certain direction in churches. And it's interesting that a lot of people say Bruce Lee's tomb was in the wrong configuration, and that's why Brandon Lee ended up dead as well. So it's interesting that belief in Feng Shui goes that deep, but it is very real, certainly in Hong Kong, where I know people do practice it and stuff.
Well, they incorporate it into their architecture, don't they? There's blocks of, like, tower blocks of flats, but they'll have a big gap in the middle, and that is so the sky dragons can fly through and they're not, you know, they're not causing a blockage. That's exactly what it is. The sky dragons, or the dragon lines, as the Chinese call the chi lines. Yeah.
You know, in the West, we call them the Leylines now.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, they're very real. But if you get a map out, you can connect ancient sites with straight lines. And they're like blueprint for ley lines. Now, not all ley lines are in straight lines. You know, you can alter the direction of a ley line by just simply putting a piece of iron into the ground and redirecting that energy, which a lot of people do, you know, that are into Feng Shui. So you can have a line what zigzags, or get a line what could go north for 100 miles and then suddenly turn east for 100 miles. You know, you can look for them on maps and find them. Now, the real test is, are they there? And, you know, I have come across them. Sometimes when I'm crossing over them, I'll actually feel them in my stomach, and I know they're there. Now, all this brings me to this one I'm going to talk about tonight. It was, I think it's 9 years ago, 2011. I was at the Truth Chiefs gathering, and it was at a farm in North Wales, in a village, and forgive me for the pronunciation, but it's Glenfridwy, and it's between Corwin and Clongollen. And I was there a week. I was invited to do a couple of talks, and at the time I was going through quite a bit of turmoil in life, and I just sat down in this certain place, and I didn't move all week apart from getting up, going to the toilet, or getting something to eat, or going to sleep in the tent. And people would say, "Have you not moved?" And I just smile at them, "No, I'm happy." And I never told anybody what I was doing, but I was actually sat on the Leyline. I was just taking the energy in and recharging myself and clearing my head for, a couple of months ahead that I had to go through. And I really enjoyed it, and I go back there every year to this field. I love the energy there. It's one of my favourite places in the world. And I never really took it any further than that. I just knew the energy was there. I do Tai Chi there, I do Qi Kong. I have done a couple of Kung Fu forms, because I really felt good, when I am there. I take people who teach Tai Chi, some friends who are into stuff I'm into, and they all go, "Wow, what a field this is." And the farmer and his wife, they're nice people. But I started, it was about 3 years ago now, we went, a few of us went camping there, and there was some festival on in that field, so we couldn't have the field, and the farmer, he put us in another field. But about 3 o'clock in the morning that night, one of the young lads who was with us, Richard, he says to me, "You know these UFO things you talk about?" I'm like, "Yeah." He says, "What's that in the sky?" And going from west to east, down the Dee Valley, in the sky was this flying cube. And I went, "What do you think it is?" He says, "It's a flying cube." I went, "Yeah, well, you don't believe in UFOs are out." He said, "No, but I'm seeing this." I said, "Yeah, I am as well, and I don't know what it is." But it was a flying cube. How big it was, I don't know. How high up it was, I really couldn't.
What colour was it, Frank? Was it just a light, or...?
It was like a greyish colour, but when it swung round into the moonlight, there was like a whitish colour to it. Right. So it was strange. I've never seen it, and it was silent, or, that far away we couldn't hear anything. But I was just fascinated by it. Anyway, the day after, his mate had texted him and said, "I seen a flying cube over Shrewsbury." So it verified for, Richard, that these things exist. But I'm still mystified by it, and I don't know what it was. But I'm thinking, why did it fly down this valley in this direction? Because it was parallel to this Leyline and all. And then I'm thinking, where's Llandrillo from Glenfidry? And it's only a few miles away, and as most people in the UFO community know, Llandrillo is where the Berwyn Mountain UFO crash happened.
Mm. Well, that's where we were all. We were 4 miles away from Berwyn when we saw what we saw in 1997.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that, because...
This is why I wanted you to come on the show, actually.
Fair enough. But I had no idea about that at all, because I didn't even know where we'd gone, because I wasn't driving. John was driving, me and Steve were in the back of the car, so all I knew was we were just, like, in Wales somewhere. And it was when I went back in 2012 that we were going down the road, and I just stopped. I stopped. I was like, "Oh my God, look at that, Berwyn, 2 miles that way, Glencerrig, 2 miles that way, or 4 miles or something like that." So it was basically like 4 miles from Berwyn. I had zero clue until 2012. That's where it was. I had no idea where we were. I kind of knew we were near Wrexham, but I'd not figured in Berwyn, no way.
Yeah.
Mad.
Well, it's mad. Because when I first met you and you told me, I'm like, all right, that's near Glenferrie.
And this is why I went to Wales, because, you know, flying cubes, spheres, you know, it's like we have a triangle and a rectangle, and I love the full set.
Is there any military bases around that area? I was just wondering if they could, you know, if you've seen any sort of secret planes or something.
Oh my God, David, it was not a plane.
No, I'm not. I'm just, because there are people, no, sorry, but there are people out there that might say that, you know, that ask that question. That's why you've got to sort of bring that into the equation, if you like. I believe it wasn't, because I know you and I know Frank, and I know you know what you're looking at.
A friend of mine at the time, I actually put it on Facebook, and I've known Stuart for a while, and exactly what he does for a job I don't know, but it's something on computers, and he just said it could be military. I'm like, these days weak military, I don't know what they've got, you know, they had the SR-71 for years, so yeah they might have a flying tube, and he just said, yeah, maybe you're right. Now he's not a guy who's into UFOs, so he got me wondering a bit. But as far as I know, there's no military bases along this area, but they do fly military planes through that Mach Loop, which is along this area. You know, people who are into military aircraft, Mach Loop's one of the best places in the world to go. Because all these planes, they fly down this valley and then turn left up another valley. And a lot of people go there, they photograph them, video them, and they're actually higher than the planes. You know, it's on one of my bucket lists.
Yeah, I think I've seen bits of film with that. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? The level they fly at. Yeah.
You know, I was actually watching one today, and it was a C-130 plane went past, like, and there was some guy sat on the tail lift at the back waving at the photographers. But yeah, this Leyline in this area, I like, years ago, I remember somebody talking about Lake Bala and a lot of legends, and there has been UFOs seen flying in and out of Lake Bala, and I never really give it much thought at the time, but these legends go back to like King Arthur and all this, and there's a lot of mystique going on around this area, which brings me to this Leyline. You know, I thought, right, where does it start? And just about a mile away from the farm, towards Corwin, is Owen Glendower's mound. And in the village of Corwin, there's a big statue dedicated to Owen Glendower. And first time I saw it, oh, who's this guy? Oh, he rebelled against the English. And I thought, alright, I like this guy. You know, being North Asian.
Pull that statue down.
So, alright, who is he? And he was around at the time of King Edward I, Edward Longshanks. And he was a bigger pain in the arse for him than William Wallace was. And his campaign lasted, I think it was 11 years. And he, you know, Longshanks sent an army into Wales and they got massacred. You know, simply because Owen Glendower was doing like commando tactics, hit and run, you know, in small forces. But I thought, right, well, where's he from? And turns out there was this Castle Bran, I think it's called, overlooking Llangollen. And Edward Longshanks demolished this castle. You know, he got as far as this into Wales, and he demolished the castle, and it was never rebuilt. But this is where this Leyline starts. And he goes through the farm, going Glen to his mound, which is parallel to what this flying cube was doing. And then the next place I can find is a lake, and it's called, again, forgive me for my Welsh, but Capel Celyn. And it's a reservoir lake. And I looked at it and I thought, well, why is this here? And, you know, why is it on this Leyline? I'm thinking, there's got to be more to it. So I started looking into what Capel Celyn was. And it turns out it was a Welsh village. And they were all Welsh speaking. And in the 1960s, they built a dam and it flooded the village out. And it was the last village of Welsh speakers. The dam was for water for Liverpool, and they only used it for a few years. So straight away in my mind, I'm thinking, this is like ethnic cleansing. You know, it's the type of thing you see around the world happening, you know, to get rid of the ethnics. And, you know, I was like, right, so where else does this line go? And I started uncovering Cardigan Bay, and apparently Cardigan Bay, in legend, it was land at one time, and there was a big dike. And part of the legend, or reality, is there's a fossilised forest near Cardigan, and at low tides it appears. So at some stage there was, you know, lower sea levels. But this legend of, you know, again, there's a kingdom under Cardigan Bay, just like there was this village at Capel Celyn, it flooded. And I'm thinking, right, who was this guy? And I can't remember the name of him offhand, but apparently he fell asleep, and legend says this is when the high tide came in and flooded the kingdom, because he left the gates open. But this guy had 7 sons, and he got scattered, and one of the sons became a saint called Saint Gwynhoddle, and I can't find the exact translation into English, but I know from Afrikaans and Dutch, Hoddle means shepherd, so I was interested in this. But there's a church dedicated to him, and it's in a village, and you'll have to forgive me for the pronunciation, yeah, but it's on the peninsula out towards Boise Island, and in this village is his church which is to him, but it's on a crossroads, and this crossroads is one of the major roads down to Boise Island, which is known as the Island of 1,000 Saints, because a lot of the religious fanatics wanted to go there to die. So I digs a bit deeper, and I started becoming aware that this line may meander, or it's possibly there's 2 lines, and part of it goes through the area which Sasha had her experience, and where Clandrillo is, where this UFO came down. But it starts at Church Castle, which is just southeast of Brancaster in Clongowne. So all this meandering, it's bringing in other churches, and there's a church for a saint called Ethelherm, which I believe is Gwynhoddle's brother, who's also a son of this king who let the water in over Cardigan Bay. But this guy, he's supposed to be what do you call him, like a pupil of St. Bruno. Now, legend says that St. Ethelred performed necromancy, but it's more like it was St. Bruno who performed the necromancy on St. Ethelred, who died, and his body was ripped apart by animals. Now, the only part they couldn't get back together again was his eyebrows, and in English, translating his name is Iron Eyebrows. Now, his church is also on one of these ley lines I'm discovering, or the meandering of the ley line. Now, you go right across the Irish Sea, where I kind of followed it to, and it comes to Tara Hill. And I was just like, right, I can't get over this. Tara, in English, means watchtower. Now, on Tara Hill, there's a church there dedicated to St. Kevin, who's the patron saint of blackbirds. Blackbirds are known as the Watchers. So I'm just like, wow, this is amazing. Now, on Thursday, I'm actually going over to Ireland, and I'm going to go to Tara Hill, because I want to experience this energy there, which I know is there. So, by the time the show goes out next week, I'll be coming back from Ireland.
Yeah, try to send some pictures, Frank.
Yeah, I will do. Oh, definitely. So, anyway, in all of this, I'm finding out different facts connected to these saints and what they're actually doing, but I'm thinking, well, why have they built the churches on this ley line? And my opinion is that before these churches came, the Druids, or whoever was there before, were aware of sacred wells, and there are a couple of sacred wells along these lines. And I'm like, right, this is typical of what Christian churches were doing. You know, you get an old well, like where I live in Preston, we have Lady Well. It's a shrine to the Virgin Mary. It's a Catholic place, but it's built on a Saxon healing well. So I know the energy there is nice. But these wells are all on these lines, and I'm still discovering more and more. But the biggest mind blower for me was right through a village, and then about a mile out to sea is where these two lines converge. This village is Port Miriam, and Port Miriam is where Patrick McGowan and The Prisoner was filmed. Now, for anybody who's watched it, it's all about, they're trying to find out why he resigned from his job, and they're giving him a number, which is what they're trying to do to us now in society. You know, we need your ID, a digital ID. We're getting rid of birth certificates and stuff like that, but we want a digital ID, which is your DNA and your fingerprints, iris, things a lot, you know. That's what they want from us, which is what the whole program was about from Patrick McGowan. You know, he says, I'm not a number, I'm a free man. Now, in this, when he tries to escape from this village, they send out massive orbs, which, again, is energy. Like, you ever see any depiction of chi, it's always in an orb, and divided into the yin and yang. So I'm thinking, did Patrick McGowan actually know of this Leyline, what I feel, and did he use it to foresee the future when he wrote The Prisoner? Because we're living in a society now where we are the village. They're trying to find out everything about you. You know, we are the enemy. We're being photographed all the time. Then I'm like looking at this ley line and what's going on, and there's like a timeline of, oh, we've got something, but now let's flood it, we'll start again. no, we've had the time, let's flood it, let's start again. And there seems to be like there's a nice feel with this energy, or it seems to give off an energy or something what puts negativeness into the minds into the psyche of humans, where it's okay to just stop everything and start again, if that makes sense. And I'm trying to figure out how people have been living along these lines for, hundreds of years or thousands of years. So I've become interested in Welsh history in these areas, and more the social history, how people have reacted to conditions, what have been happening. Like the most recent one is this Berwick Mountain incident. You got bloody idiots like Russ Kellett who put out so much bullshit. It's hard to sift through to find out what the truth is now.
I'll be not listening, Russ. Sorry about that.
Yeah. Do you call you dragon that you fly on the astral?
So yeah, that's where I'm at with this line. And obviously, it's hard to get the message across without photographs and presenting it and talking about these places. But certainly in the field, the farm, there's actually 3 ley lines go through it, and I do feel them. And there's a particular point right down on the riverbed where I will do Tai Chi, because that's the focal point of them all. But yeah, what an amazing place. And hopefully when I'm in Ireland next week, I'll be able to go to Newgrange again, which for anybody who's into ancient sites, Newgrange is just phenomenal. It's fantastic. I must have been about 30 times now, but the energy there, it's just phenomenal. And I've been looking to see if there's any connection with Newgrange and these saints of North Wales.
Well, Frank, that where I am, I'm not that far from the Wirral Peninsula, which is literally a spit away from all of that in Wales, well, at least North Wales. Me and Dave have been digging into the history of where we live in a place called Roby.
That's not me to talk about, by the way.
This was...
It's your partner, Dave, not me.
Yeah. Sorry, I felt like that. So, this town, Roby, is actually a Viking settlement. It's in the Doomsday Book, and there's another Roby, which I think it means something like watchtower, something along those lines.
Yeah.
Watch post, something like that. And the ley line that's near me goes... There's 3 churches built on it, basically, in a line. Now, the church nearest to us, I can see it from my bedroom window. And when I looked on a map to where somebody's charted this map of this ley line, and it goes across my street. So about maybe 8 or 9 houses up. That's where it is. But when I lived in Leeds, there's a huge part of Leeds which is kind of low-lying, and it's all like very condensed housing, like just 2 floors, and because it's very hilly as Leeds, so when you're at certain parts of it, you can see right across the rooftops of all of these houses, and they're all just kind of like red brick back-to-back houses, and you can see the churches that go across the city, and they are all in a line. And it's just like, there's a ley line over there. Because that was one of the things that they would do, because churches are supposed to be places of power, and they would build them on places of power. Oftentimes that would mean that they were building on like an ancient site of worship for people who worship the earth and the sun and the moon, druids, whatever. Even in Scotland, there's a huge stone circle. I think it's got 48 stones all together, and they took 4 of them and they used them as the cornerstones of a church that they built right in the middle of this circle, which is absolutely huge. And in the middle of it is this church which nobody uses. You know, it's bonkers, and that's the church tuning into these places of high energy, and I believe that to be a ley, which actually means line, doesn't it? So people call it ley lines, but ley means line, so it's really technically being pedantic, it's ley. But fascinating that because the church knows about this, and the church knows about the power, and they have actively stamped on every part of any other kind of earthy worship that they deemed satanic.
Well, I was going to say about that, I mean, they must have had all this ancient knowledge they just didn't want the normal people to get hold of.
Well, yeah, all words are spells, you know, and that's why they call it spelling. But they don't, you know, they detach your mind and your psyche, and then you do the rest by distracting you from things like that. It's like when you point it out to people, they go, "Oh yeah." It's like your name is a spell. And that's why people used to choose specific names for the children, you know, like really, you know, dramatic ones, because they were tying into an energy or a tone, a frequency, you know, and that is the energy in of the spell. So they say to you, how do you spell your name? And because it's a spell, my name means defender of a mankind from the bright light. Now, I said to my mum, did you do that on purpose? And she went, no. Like, don't be ridiculous. I was like, well, that's a little bit weird. Considering that I kind of, you know, champion a group of people. So, yes.
Wait, what I don't quite understand is why did they want to stop people knowing about all these? Did they want to keep it all to themselves? I suppose, was it a control thing?
It's control.
Take away your power.
Yeah.
You're the master of your own vessel, and it's taking that away from you.
Which is much what they're doing today, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the church itself, they were built on where the ley lines crossed, is the energy spirals, and it spirals upwards. So the church steeples, they're also known as a spire, which means to rise.
The spiral.
You use that energy, and with what you're saying in the words, you've got control of people, mind, body and spirit. Which, you know...
That's why if you see politicians and they're out and they're giving a speech in public, they always have the hands down and they have the fingers and the thumbs touching, and they place it in front of the sacral chakra, and they know that that is a shield of power against negative thought and psychic attack. Now, you might think I'm talking absolute BS, but you'll go and look at any, like Theresa May or any of them, like when they're out in public, especially Theresa May, she used to do it all the time. She would always have her hands in some funky little position in front of her sacral chakra to protect her from that energy attack. I'm telling you, that's why she was doing it, because it's like, you know, they know.
It's funny, over the years, people like, you know, in power like that avoid me, because they know I can detect it and go through that bullshit. So they avoid me like the plague, which is good for me, because they leave me alone then. But yeah, it's very real, you know, there's a dark side to all the energy, and, you know, they do use it in black magic, you know, they use it to kill people.
Which is one of the most magical objects probably on the planet.
Yeah.
And there's all those artifacts of death that were incorporated into the build. You know, and people just see her trotting by in a golden coach, but they don't know what's in that, you know, why it's in there, why they've included a bit of a B-52 bomber, you know, and other magical items. You see the nurses' belt buckles, and it's a Masonic pentagram, you know, and it's right there on your face. And if you don't know about symbolism, then you miss it.
Yeah, it's everywhere, isn't it? On buildings and everything all the time. Yeah.
Approach magical objects.
Yeah.
Because of the ingredients of it.
It cracks me up when people, you know, you're a conspiracy theorist because you've just seen a pyramid. And it's like, yeah, okay. I'm not going to spend all night explaining hermetic magic to them. But, you know, just, yeah, okay. But yeah, the symbols, as Sasha said, they're very, very powerful in the human psyche. And, you know, Carl Jung was very aware of it. And he did write a good book called Man and His Symbols. And he explains it in the viewpoint he had, which is good for. But yeah, it's very real. Hermetic magic. You know, you back it up with chi. You've got something very powerful.
You see, all businesses, they all have these little design logos, but what they are is magical sigils for power and success, etc.
Well, they even change the name so that the right numerology comes out as well, don't they?
Yeah. And often they do everything on dates, like, you know, the election's on the 2nd of November. That's actually the Day of the Dead, All Souls Day, or is it All Saints? It's my birthday. But, you know, everything they do as like a significant date. There's a lot of 22nds. They do things on the 22nd a lot. And, you know, it's just, they're doing it because it's all magic, it's all power. And magic with a K on the end, not pulling a rabbit out of a hat, although they do that as well. So yeah, everything, all the symbols, they're all specifically designed to empower a product or a place or a business or whatever. That's what logos are. And you tell you, and then they become like a kind of thought form.
Yeah, you do see a lot of similarities in shape when you do start looking at a few, don't you?
Mm.
Yeah, with a lot of them.
Yeah, but you can ascribe your own meaning to anything.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
I mean, so, and that's part of it being a sigil. It's what your intention is. In business, it's to be successful. So
yeah,
that's why businesses have logos. But I don't think most people, businessmen or anyone, they're particularly aware of that. You know.
I was just looking, funny enough, you're talking about symbolism. I was just looking at a thing on here. I've just got it on my computer in front of me here. The Bitcoin ATM thing is very similar to the Illuminati sign with the eye on it.
Yeah.
So that's quite a good sample that I'm looking at right in front of me here.
Mm.
I know you can't see it on the show, but
it's true. One of the best symbols I ever saw was the BT symbol of the Piper. When you look at it, everything's built around a snake. I was just like, why did they put a snake there?
Well, there again, the reptilian thing comes into it, doesn't it, Frank? Is that a connection?
Possibly. I really don't know, but I won't dismiss it.
Because like you say, the snake does come into a lot of things, doesn't it?
Yeah. Like he was worshipped by the Mayans, weren't it, or the Incas?
Yeah.
What's it called? Something like that. It was called the feathered serpent.
Quetzalcoatl.
Quetzalcoatl, wasn't it?
Yeah. And then in Indian mythology, you've got the Nagas. Snake people. In English mythology or Christianity, you got Saint George and the Dragon. You know, I mean, my personal belief is that they're all talking about the energy, the dragon energy.
Yeah.
You know, Saint George, how the hell is he going to kill a dragon with a sword? But he can divert the energy. St. Patrick goes to Ireland, he gets rid of all the snakes.
Yeah, again, that's another one, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. You know, what's that about? So, you know, it's all very legend. Even Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. You know,
the serpent again.
Well, this is it, yeah. Lucifer, or Satan, whatever you want to call him, tempts Eve, but God punishes him by making him slide on his belly for eternity. So did he have arms and legs before it, and was he a reptilian?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a big question.
Yeah.
And also, he was cast out of heaven, so he was one of them lot. And humans were made in their image.
Yeah.
So I've often questioned, is the human reptilian hybrid already with us? Because I have seen one guy shapeshift into one.
Yeah, I remember you said about that.
And I was just like, what the what am I actually seeing, you know? Am I going crazy? But it's there, and the mythology's there, the history's there.
If you're going crazy, I'm going crazy, because I saw him step out of Jason Andrews, so there you go, ring for a rubber bus.
Yeah, I mean, the things I've heard that from several people that I trust, you know, that they're telling the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and they're very similar types of story as well. You know, so there's got to be something in it, the way I see it.
We're crazy. I mean, when you listen to it, like, objectively, it's absolutely crazy, but we've seen it, and, you know, it's like, we're not, like, having a great laugh about it all. I mean, I barely talk about it.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not about attention or being cool or all of the other reasons that people lie about all this stuff. You know, it's like mind-breaking knowledge. You know, it's really harsh on your brain, isn't it, is seeing things like this, because when you dismiss everything, you analyse it for years and years and never stop analysing it.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, I'm not crazy, because I wasn't the only person who saw it either, so.
Yeah.
Going right back to the ley lines again. Let's go right back to when they very first became aware of these ley lines. Was it just a certain faction of people that were aware of these ley lines and wanted to build on them? I mean, how did they become aware of it, I wonder, you know? Do you see what I'm saying? Why did some people know about it and not others?
Most of the earliest evidence is like stone circles and stone crowns. But he goes to more ancient sites like Göbekli Tepe and that one in South America, Tijuana or whatever it's called. The energy lines around there, they're clear on maps, you can see them. So it's an interesting question, that, but they must have had a heightened ability of experiencing chi like I experience it.
Yeah, I mean, I think what I was getting at is, do you think there's an ancient alien element to that?
Possibly. You know, it's like Cusco. Why did they carve out them ancient glyphs? Why did they carve out ancient glyphs in England? You know, when you can only see them from the sky.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know, why? And it's a valid question.
Well, I think it goes back to the energy thing, doesn't it, and the chi that you're talking about, and what I was saying about your skin telling you everything about your environment. We're bombarded with all kinds of stuff constantly now, that we're just being sent so many signals that it's not a case of being able to necessarily decipher any of it. Before we had all of this noise and all of this built up everything and the electronics, that we would have been in a much more natural state, and would have, you know, when you, like you were saying at the beginning about don't look at your enemy because they know that, you know, you're looking at them. It's because you've got that extra sense in your environment, so it would have been heightened and probably just very common.
Yeah.
But we're just overwhelmed with everything, the way life is.
Yeah.
That, you know, we have to shut it all out. We have to tune out, you know, almost everything to stay sane, because it's overwhelming.
Yeah. No, the other thing which I'll bring into that is when I do tune in, I can see the energy. You know, I'll I'll start looking at people's auras and stuff. But you can see the Leylines. And I believe, you know, like when I was growing up as a kid, one of the neighbours, he used to take me into the Kalahari, to a village where the Sam Bushmen were. And on occasions I have gone hunting with them. But the night before, the witch doctor of Sangoma would cast the bones and then tell the hunters where to go and find the animals. Now, the hunters would take on the persona of the animal and track it, and they would find it. The older I've got now, I believe they were seeing where the energy was left behind, where the animals were going. Because if you hold an object, your aura stays around that object for up to 24 hours. But when a psychic picks the object up and does psychometry, that's where they're getting the energy or information from. So I believe the Sam Bushmen were hunting like this. And I've also found out since the Aborigines will walk for miles and they're following the energy lines, and they feel them or they see them and they just follow them so they know where they're going. You know, where the water holes are and stuff. You know, it's like a Google Maps, but without the apps.
They talk about energies and things. Now, I don't really want to get too involved. Well, what's your opinion about this? The arguments about 5G. I hate to mention it really, because I know it could go in all sorts of ways. Because I keep hearing conflicting arguments about it. Do you think that this 5G could actually be put in there on purpose to actually cause more confusion to our senses?
Interesting. I really don't know.
Because they do say that if it's at 60 cycles per second, is it 60 cycles? I think it's something like that. It actually does interfere with your the molecules in your thought patterns or something. So I've heard.
Yeah. Well, what I will say, this is not.
It's no different to 4G or whatever.
If you've got an energy, it's natural. Now, some natural energies, like radiation from uranium, will kill you, will give you cancer. Now, they're natural energies. 5G or anything which is created by man is an artificial energy, and it will have an effect on you, whether it's very, very subtle or not, but it will have an effect. So yeah, it's going to affect us one way or the other.
I mean, here's the argument that our mobile phones, if you hold them, if you use them too long and too much, they can damage your brain.
Well,
so
you've got your router in your house that's kicking out a signal all the time. Right, I grew two little trees, little moringa trees. They are particularly sensitive, I'll give them that. But I moved them and I put them in front of the TV by the router. And within 24 hours, they were both dead.
Really?
Completely and withered brown, right? So we've got all that going on in our houses, and we're going on about some 5G signal. You know, it's already happening. Yeah. It's like you're already in a soup of electronic noise, of radar from aircraft and everything. When, you know, like you don't even realise how much you're bombarded with. So I don't really know how 5G is going to make it be any worse or, you know, whatever. You know, and people say, no, it's nothing. No, it's all something. Yeah. And it slices through our bodies. All of this stuff is not like, it doesn't bounce off our skin. You know, we take it into ourselves, all of it, everywhere we go. You know, you're walking past a lamppost. Now, I don't know about anyone else, but I can carry a heavy static charge. I have walked past a lamppost, and because all of the electronics are at the bottom of the lamppost, I've walked past it, and the light's gone out.
Really?
I'm not joking. So I walked back and I did it again, but it didn't do it a third time. Whatever amount of, it's like discharging on these things, you know, but I've picked that up from somewhere, and, you know, we just live in the soup of this stuff. So, you know,
that's why I find it interesting. It's very difficult to get your head around the actual truth about anything, isn't it, nowadays? Because you've got so many different arguments on each side, and, you know, trying to find the actual truth about it is very, very difficult.
Yeah, it is, you know. Like, just a simple thing with the masks. How many times the government has said, wear a mask, don't wear a mask, wear a mask, don't wear a mask.
Yeah.
You know, they're really installing that trust, and, you know, well, we're okay if we wear a mask. But they haven't got a clue.
No. Oh, and even the CDC and the NHS have made conflicting statements over it, haven't they?
Yeah. You know, so then that's just over a mask.
Yeah.
So we don't know whether they work, whether they don't work. We don't know.
Well, they make it up every day as they go along, don't they? They seem to, anyway.
Oh my God, the changes.
Scientist says yes, such a scientist says no.
That's ridiculous.
It's like the government will say, well, this scientist has said yeah, and then when you look at who this scientist is working for, you think, oh my God, where's he dug this one up?
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Well, look, did you use the action pack to support whatever BS that they're peddling this week or next week? You know, they'll always find somebody that'll say what they want them to say.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
and they keep and none of the rules that they've made have made contact with people lessen. They actually have gone from making everybody sit in by themselves to, okay, you can mix with 6 people from 6 different families in one moment as many times as you want in a day. If you had a 10-hour visit into, 10 groups of 6, you could meet with 60 people a day. How is that reducing contact in any way, shape or form from having 2 blended families in one bubble to 7 in one bubble?
Well, 6 is one of their lucky numbers again, isn't it?
But pretending that one person doesn't represent a whole group of people is insanity. Yeah. They're just, the stuff that they come out with, it just blows my freaking mind. Honest to God.
Yeah.
Nonsense.
Aware of the latest things other than, like, the rule of 6. But apparently he's talking about curfews.
The 10 o'clock.
Yeah, like it goes away at 10 o'clock.
I'm just going to say this to the whole world.
Good night. I'm going to bed now, the old virus.
I used to live in a town called Grinnichen, and every night at 8 o'clock the siren would go off. That was the curfew, and that was for the blacks to run for their lives, because anybody that was still on the streets who was black would get shot. The police, being bad marksmen, would shoot them in the back of the head or in the back of the centre of the back. And, as a kid I did see one get shot. So when I hear the term curfew, I think, no, just no. This has gone beyond any kind of virus. This has gone beyond any kind of free. It is total totalitarianism.
Yeah. I mean, there's an awful lot of angry... I know we've gone off the topic of the ley lines and everything, but there's an awful lot of angry people out there, isn't there?
Oh, yes and no, Dave, because the government, or whoever is behind all this, is using the ley lines and the chi to enforce it.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see what you're saying.
I have been feeling it for a long time, and many other people like me, empaths and that, we've all been feeling something big has been coming. Not many knew what was happening. They knew something was, but they didn't really know. Now, over the years I have looked at social engineering and how things have been happening, and then 9/11 happened and the whole world changed. And we're still going through that transition. We just need the nail in the coffin, which is happening now. But they've been using the chi to do it, and I have felt it. I go to sacred sites, go to Stonehenge, I feel it. I'm being told it by something.
Yeah. So if you're feeling it, now, Frank, how does it pan out in the end? Does good overcome evil?
it's cheap. One can't exist without the other. And it's like a magician. Does a magician use white magic or does a magician use black magic? You know, there's always that choice. But one can't exist without the other. It's like electricity. It doesn't exist without the positive. It doesn't exist without the negative. You know, you've got to have that balance.
Well, so that means we're always going to be stuck with it then.
We've got to find the balance.
Yeah. It's creation, destruction. And you can't just have creation with no destruction. Where would you put everything, David?
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something positive to sort of end up on, really. Because the way everyone's going, I mean, everyone's getting mad about all sorts of different things. I know you've got your thing you're getting mad about. I'm in a position where really none of this affects me, but it's affecting me, you know, and I'm really mad about it because I feel that.
What annoys me is they think that we're thick idiots.
Yeah, that's it. And also the thing about I can't stand liars, you know. And I think the fact that we are being lied to one way or the other from some, you know, because they are lies.
And we can feel it. We know something else is going on, so our imaginations run riot. Yeah. But at the end of the day, they are a bunch of liars.
Yeah. Which they shouldn't be, because they're supposed to be people that we pay to put in position to basically look after us and make sure the country runs smoothly and everything like that. And they're just not doing it, are they? They're just making a mess of everything.
Look, they look at us as a herd, and if that doesn't tell you everything about how they see us, then I don't know what to say. I mean,
you're correct, because we're stock.
Yeah.
You know, the whole United Kingdom corporation, we're all part of it. We're all numbers, we're stock.
Yeah.
That's what our national insurance numbers are about.
Yeah. Oh no. Anyway, on that note, I suppose we better leave it there, eh? Before I start ranting on about all sorts of other things. But yeah, thanks, Frank. It's been very interesting.
Oh, you're welcome.
And as I say, I hope people out there understand a little bit more about Leylines and its power. There's certainly something in it, because Frank knows what he's talking about, and I've seen the power that he's got, and Sasha's had as well. And
good.
You know, it's as I say, Frank knows what he's talking about. There's no more I can say about it. And Frank, thanks very much for coming on and spending some time with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing you again. I said that last time. I thought I might have seen you again before now, but what brought the lockdowns and God knows what else was going on. It's looks like it might be next year now.
Yeah, well, it is on my bucket list. Yeah. I did plan to tour Europe this year, but
yeah, well, that's it. I think we all went to go somewhere this year, but
I've got the money, got the motorbike, and nowhere to go.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? That lovely bike you bought.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to
it. It'll be 1985.
I know my wife Jill wanted to have a go on back of your bike if she ever got a chance, but it ain't happening this year, is it?
Yeah.
Anyway, Sasha, thanks a lot for coming on and helping out, and it's always a pleasure. And take care of yourself. I know you've got some hospital stuff going on and all sorts of things with your children, with the government, and God knows what else. And hope that all turns out right for you. And we'll follow up and see what's going on. And
it's a lot of us in the same position.
But I think really, at the end of the day, it's good luck to all of us what's going on, and that's worldwide. It's not just this country.
Tally-ho, chaps.
Yeah. Anyway, Frank, good night, and Sasha, good night, and everyone out there, good night. Thank you very much for listening. You've been listening to the Paranormal Radio Network, Paranormal Dimensions. I'm David Young. Good night, and thanks for listening. Bye-bye, all.
Hello.
Cheers. Cheers, Frank. Bye-bye.
What?
Right.
Paranormal Dimensions is as bright and powerful as our celestial star, the sun. And although it's expending thousands of pounds of energy every minute of the day, have no fear. There's plenty left.
Paranormal Dimensions is a regular feature on Mondays on the Paranormal UK radio network.